Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome to GMA 24, Update News Channel. Hope you will enjoy our news video. Before we begins, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Here is the news title. GMB's Susanna Reid leaves fans with same complaint as they switch off over Thatcher. Susanna Reid came under fire from Good Morning Britain viewers as a debate about Margaret Thatcher led to them switching off the program. Express Premium. Banner GMB's Susanna Reid leaves fans with same complaint as they switch off over Thatcher. Our Susanna Reid came under fire from Good Morning Britain viewers as a debate about Margaret Thatcher led to them switching off the program. By Jenny Buzaglo, Showbiz Reporter 1044, WED, Jan 29, 2025. Updated, 1047, WED, Jan 29, 2025 to bookmark GMB. Susanna Reid shocked at Starmer's comparison to Thatcher. Good Morning Britain presenter Susanna Reid sparked fury amongst viewers, leading them to switch off the program. On Wednesday, January 29th, the 54-year-old spoke to State Secretary Jonathan Reynolds, who discussed Keir Starmer's recent comments about former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. The Labour leader compared his government to Thatcher's, as he pledged to cut through thickets of red tape to clear the way for growth. On Good Morning Britain, Susanna expressed her shock over the government's change in tone, claiming the comparison would no doubt leave several viewers with their jaw on the floor. The broadcaster referenced Mr. Starmer's doom and gloom speech shortly after coming into power, where he set out his aim to root out 14 years of rot under the previous Conservative government. All of a sudden you've had this massive conversion, Susanna told Mr. Reynolds, before mentioning how a portrait of Thatcher was removed from No 10 shortly after the Labour government won the election. Now he's writing about her in the Times. Susanna exclaimed, adding, "It's unthinkable that a Labour Prime Minister would invoke the spirit of Margaret Thatcher." She asked Mr. Reynolds if the government have come around to Thatcher's way of thinking, later probing the MP on whether he is a fan of the late Conservative leader. The conversation sparked fury amongst viewers, who hit out at the presenter for her aggressive line of questioning. One declared, "A lot of people watching will have their jaw on the floor this morning at the change in tone." Ain't that the truth, Ms. Reid? Glad you acknowledge the change in tone. GMB has morphed into GB News. GMB is unwatchable. Switch off. Another fumed, "I used to quite like Susanna Reid, now I can't bear to watch this awful program. The sole intention of GMB seems to be to say all they can to disparage and bring down the government. The reporting is so very biased. Do they ever question Farage or anyone from Reform like this?" A third claimed, "Whereas most watching this morning will be more fed up with the tone of this morning's presenters. Aggressive, rude, and frankly a toxic combination. Do better, GMB." A fourth echoed, "I wish she'd change her tone, just watching without the sound on. Hands on hips, arms waving, sneering, hardly pausing for breath. God knows what she was ranting on about." Others hit out at the government, with one writing, "They can't admit they want to copy Trump, so they talk about Thatcher. These idiots have zero idea about the real world and will fail." A second agreed, "The government seems to be running round like headless chickens chasing headlines, smashing down pillars and filling in foundations. They should take a collective deep breath, sit down together in a darkened room, and think about what they have done to date and rewind those policies that have created the economic mess and confidence they have created." GMB presenter Susanna Reid has often found herself at the center of lively debates, but her recent exchange regarding former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher has sparked an especially strong reaction among viewers. As the discussion unfolded, many viewers expressed their dissatisfaction, with some even declaring that they had switched off the program due to what they perceived as biased and aggressive questioning. The controversy unfolded during a segment where Susanna Reid engaged in a discussion with State Secretary Jonathan Reynolds. The topic at hand was Labour leader Keir Starmer's recent comparison of his government's approach to that of Margaret Thatcher. The mere mention of the late Conservative leader in such a context proved to be a lightning rod for strong opinions, particularly from GMB's audience, which includes viewers from a broad political spectrum. The context: Keir Starmer's Thatcher reference. Keir Starmer's remarks had already ignited discussions before they were even brought up on GMB. The Labour leader, who has positioned himself as a moderate and pragmatic leader, made statements aligning his government's approach with that of Thatcher, pledging to cut through bureaucratic red tape to stimulate economic growth. For a party that traditionally opposed Thatcher's policies, this comparison came as a shock to many, leading to a divide in opinions among both political commentators and the public. Upon taking office, Starmer had initially set out to differentiate himself starkly from the previous Conservative administration, condemning what he described as 14 years of rot. However, his reference to Thatcher suggested a shift in tone, a move that some interpreted as an attempt to appeal to centrist and right-leaning voters. Susanna Reid's interrogation: a fair inquiry or aggressive line of questioning. During the GMB segment, Susanna Reid appeared visibly taken aback by the reference to Thatcher. She questioned Jonathan Reynolds on whether the Labour government had now embraced elements of Thatcher's ideology, despite having previously criticised Conservative leadership. In her characteristic probing style, Reid pressed the minister on whether he personally admired Thatcher's approach, a question that seemed to make Reynolds somewhat uneasy. Reid's questioning style has long been a subject of debate. As a seasoned journalist, she is known for holding politicians to account. However, in this instance, many viewers felt she crossed the line into hostility. Viewer backlash. The complaints pour, and the reaction on social media was swift, with viewers taking to platforms like X, formerly Twitter, to express their frustration. Many felt that the questioning was unnecessarily combative and that it reflected a broader issue of media bias. One viewer wrote, "A lot of people watching will have their jaw on the floor this morning at the change in tone. Ain't that the truth? Ms. Reid, glad you acknowledged the change in tone. GMB has morphed into GB News. GMB is unwatchable. Switch off." Another complained, "I used to quite like Susanna Reid. Now I can't bear to watch this awful program. The sole intention of GMB seems to be to say all they can to disparage and bring down the government. The reporting is so very biased. Do they ever question Farage or anyone from Reform like this?" These comments highlight an increasing frustration among certain sections of the audience, who perceive GMB as being unfairly critical of the government. Others expressed concern that the aggressive style of questioning was making political discourse more divisive rather than informative. Media, bias, and political reporting. The backlash against Susanna Reid reflects a broader conversation about media bias in political reporting. Critics argue that mainstream media outlets tend to adopt confrontational approaches, particularly toward political figures they ideologically oppose. While holding politicians accountable is a fundamental responsibility of journalists, the way in which interviews are conducted can shape public perception. Supporters of Reid argue that her questioning was justified, given the surprising nature of Starmer's comments. They believe that as a journalist, she has a duty to interrogate inconsistencies in political messaging. However, opponents believe that such a tone contributes to an increasingly polarized media landscape. Thatcher's legacy: a divisive figure. Margaret. Thatcher remains one of the most divisive figures in British political history. Her tenure as Prime Minister from 1979 to 1990 saw sweeping economic reforms, privatization, and a reduction in the power of trade unions. Supporters credit her with revitalizing the British economy, while critics argue that her policies exacerbated social inequality and led to the decline of traditional industries. For a Labour leader to invoke Thatcher's name in a positive light is, therefore, a politically charged move. Starmer's attempt to approach signals an effort to appeal to a broader electorate, but it also risks alienating the party's traditional voter base. The role of Good Morning Britain in political discourse. GMB has established itself as a key platform for political discussion in the UK. Under the stewardship of presenters like Susanna Reid and formerly Piers Morgan, the show has gained a reputation for conducting hard-hitting interviews. However, this approach has sometimes led to accusations of sensationalism and political bias. In the era of social media, where viewers can instantly react to live broadcasts, programs like GMB are under constant scrutiny. The feedback loop between television and digital platforms means that controversial segments quickly become talking points beyond the original broadcast, amplifying their impact. Switching off. The consequence of viewer discontent, the growing dissatisfaction among GMB viewers, raises questions about the role of morning television in political engagement. If audiences feel that the show has become too combative or biased, they may choose to disengage altogether. This presents a challenge for broadcasters, who must balance rigorous journalism with maintaining audience trust. Conclusion: a debate that reflects deeper divisions. The controversy surrounding Susanna Reid's handling of the Thatcher debate is symptomatic of larger tensions in British politics and media. As politicians navigate shifting ideological landscapes, and as journalists seek to hold them accountable, the way these interactions play out in the media will continue to shape public discourse. Whether viewers perceive GMB's approach as necessary, scrutiny, or excessive aggression depends largely on their own political perspectives. However, the reaction to this segment suggests that for some, the tone of political debate on television has become a major point of contention. If broadcasters want to retain credibility and audience engagement, they may need to find a way to foster constructive discussion without alienating large sections of their viewership. For now, the debate rages on, not just about Thatcher, but about the nature of political journalism itself. So, what do you guys think about this update? Let me know in the comment below. If you like my video, please press like button and subscribe for more. Hope I'll see you in next video.